For a lot of you that might not know, Josh wrote, directed, and starred in this film, and Jon Favreau, Woody Allen, and so many other more. It's a finite number of people who actually do that. Do you have trust issues that you can't?
Did I just realized that?
Do you have trust issues that you can't trust anybody with your work? Like it has to be you? Are you a control freak?
No, I mean not really. I just once you start working in, it feels like the actor has more autonomy in the theater, and that's what I really came from. So no one's editing your performance, and you do it in one take every night,
right.
And the audience is sitting where they're sitting, and they get what you're doing. And then when you're acting in film or on TV, you're really at the mercy of a lot of other forces that are, hopefully picking your best takes, but they're telling their own story. They have their own agenda. And I didn't really understand all this until I got behind the camera and got into an editing room. But I just had stories I wanted to tell, and there were parts that, Happy Thank You More Please, I wrote initially as an actor to give myself a great role as an actor, and the directing thing came later. Then I just accidentally found that I loved it and wanted to do it. So this I wrote to direct. The first one I wrote to be in and wanted to write a great story, but yeah, to me it's like it's the difference between playing in an orchestra and being the conductor. I love being a part of an ensemble, but when you're playing, you're responsible for your part, and everyone else is responsible for their part, and then the conductor is the person who kind of is getting the full sound out, and I've enjoyed that.
So when you look at what you're written, obviously the reaction of the audience, they laughed a lot, it was moving at certain moments. You look at that and you look at your acting, you look at directing, which one provides for you the most amount of joy? And how do you rank them, amongst what you're best at?
I feel it's almost like people are, at least in interviews, like you have to decide. Are you an actor? Are you a writer, director?
Yeah, they want to put you in one place in that box, and that's it.
And I feel like my first movie came out, and people were like, "You're a television actor. How dare you try to cross the velvet rope of directing cinema? This is not your club." And I got punched a little bit for that. And now, then I come out with this one. They're like, "Honored filmmaker Josh Radnor." It's like you can't. Who knows? But there is this feeling of wanting to compartmentalize people, and say. But I think if you're creative, you want to do lots of things. I want to. One summer I was doing theater at the Guthrie, and I wrote lyrics to 7 songs with a guy who wrote the music. That's really interesting to me. Or, I used to want to be a painter. Like I'm interested in. The reason I love making films is because it kind of draws on everything that I'm good at including interpersonally. Like I like creating a great environment for people to work in. I like community. I like setting a tone that's really nice and friendly, and I like getting great, talented people who make my stuff look amazing, from the actors to the cinematographer, the production designer, editor, all these people. There's just it draws on a lot that is exciting to me. When it comes to the writing and directing, sometimes I sit back here and I like it when, I say something as an actor and it lands and all that. But there's something particularly thrilling about the fact that I can feel the audience is with the story, and then I feel like, wow, I wrote this in a coffee shop largely. I thought I dreamt up this world, and all these people helped me bring it to life, and now it's up there for people to watch. It's really thrilling.
I really like the dialogue in the movie. The writing is, I can relate to it. And one of my favorite scenes, probably, I'm not sure about you guys, but is the classical music sequence, where she introduces, the character of Zibby introduces you to classical music.
Yeah.
And then there's a montage of New York, and it's almost poetic in such a way. Take us through that. Talk a little bit about that scene, how you came up with it, and how you decided to visualize it on screen.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I am really proud of that sequence. It was the very first thing my editor and I worked on. We just decided, let's delve into that classical, that crazy classical letter writing sequence. And it's a delicate thing because it's something that, if the tone's not correct, it really could not work. It could really be kind of corny or
boring.
Or boring. You'd be like, oh God, classical music. But I was writing. There's certain music that's really good to write to, and I find music with lyrics can be very distracting to write to because it's someone's saying something into your ear, that's not what you're writing. But classical music is a very wonderful accompaniment to writing, and I find it fires off certain neurons in my brain that are kind of pleasing and depending on the song, and it's also like a very deep well of you. Once you go into the classical music thing, it's you can get lost in
Right.
different recordings and orchestras and different composers, and it's I have some friends who are I have a young friend who is a classical composer and a conductor. He's from Mexico, and I write him and I say, Rodrigo, I'm interested, Verdi's Requiem, what are the best recordings?
So you didn't know any of these classical songs that you mentioned here?
I knew them all, and I wrote the script based on them.
Right.
And I gave my editor a CD. I basically gave him Zibby's CD. And I said, here's 10 to 12 songs that I think she put on this CD.
Right.
Wagner's Tannhauser, Beethoven's
Giustino,
Sixth
Vivaldi.
Symphony, the Giustino from Vivaldi, and
Beethoven Symphony 6.
Beethoven, the Emperor Concerto, the Sixth Symphony, the Massenet's Meditation. These were things I knew would be in there. And they're also they're not so overplayed that they get laughter. They're actually, they're famous to people who know them. But I don't know a lot of people, they know that Massenet's Meditation, which is one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever written. It's just astonishing, And when I would listen to this music, sometimes I would find myself really transported, and it was doing something to me. Especially I would play it in traffic in LA, and it was it suddenly made traffic bearable. And it has an ability to make something that might be grotesque beautiful.
Right.
And I don't know why, but I love that juxtaposition of some sort of urban scene and then classical music, or even like Martin Scorsese will do that. He'll play a song, like a kind of upbeat song with something horribly violent going on, and it's this interesting juxtaposition. So I like this idea that this music was affecting him in a very serious way, and by extension, she was affecting him in that way because she had become like the music to him. I mean, not to be too grand about that, but she's the one who introduced him to the music,
Let's talk about casting. Let me begin with Zac Efron.
Yeah.
I think everyone was probably thinking the same thing when he came on. It's we did not expect Zac to be in this movie, and especially in
Nor
this.
did I.
Explain to me how that came along.
Yeah.
And how involved were you in the casting? I mean, Elizabeth Olsen is a future star, if she isn't already one. You got Jenkins, who I hear makes movies 20% better as soon as he steps on the stage.
That's probably true, yeah.
So talk to us about that, and let's begin with Zac.
Well, Zac, I wrote the character of Nat as a kind of, like I said, he's kind of the antidote to this kind of life trapped in your head. And I knew that the pitfall to the Nat character would be someone who would play him ironically and kind of be like, hey man, I'm just a stoner, it's all cool. And I really didn't see the role that way. It's very clear that he's just drinking water. It's not laced with anything. I get the feeling he's probably done a lot of psychedelics and then decided, you know what, I'm done. I just need water. Because he got somewhere,
He stayed like that.
He stayed like that. It just took.
One too many.
Yeah, or just enough. And so I knew that this was a pitfall with this role, and I actually read a lot of people. And when we didn't know if Zac would be doing it. I was auditioning people, and some people really.
Can you tell us who?
No. But I met Zac a few summers ago at the Maui Film Festival when we were showing the first movie there. And he was there getting an award, and we were there for 2 or 3 days together and had some really great conversations and stayed in touch. And I was really struck this one night. They interviewed him out at this big amphitheater where they show the movies, and he was there were these shrieking girls like the Beatles, just shrieking, and he was doing his best to kind of answer questions and there was something very sincere about him, and I was very touched by it. I thought, oh, the guy's he's trying to do his best, and these girls are screaming. I can't imagine how horrible that would be. But I thought, we had some really great conversations, and he has this very uncynical quality that my movies demand, and especially that part demanded. And because he's taking it very seriously and not cynical about it, I think it's actually funnier, and it resonates more. So we asked him to do it, and part of it was we said we're not. This is not a Zac Efron movie. It's 3 scenes. We're not going to turn it into some sort of, thing.
Right.
We like the idea that it's kind of this little cameo. It's bigger than a cameo, but he's just in the movie.
Right.
We don't give him credit up front. He's just in the end credits.
Yeah, he just appears.
Yeah, he just appears, but that's kind of like the character,
Right, right. You weren't sure if he was real or not.
You're not sure if he's real,
Right.
So that's how Zac got in the movie.